If parties to a written contract intend for the contract to recite their entire agreement, the parol-evidence rule generally prohibits any evidence about a contract's terms beyond the writing itself. A mutual mistake in a contract for farmland added to the growing body of law about the admission of parole evidence in Morris v. Morris. E. Morris bought over 500 acres of land. Decades later, Morris and his son Harold entered into a lease agreement in which Morris leased all his farmland to Harold in exchange for rent payments. Then, Morris and Harold executed an option contract that gave Harold the option to buy land from Morris within the next 10 years. The contract expressly described only about 300 acres of Morris's purchase, omitting descriptions for the remainder. Morris made his will, naming his son Marion as executor. Though Morris excluded Harold from the will explained that Morris did so because he gave Harold a deal on the lease and option. Morris died. About a year before Harold's option expired, he notified Marion of his intention to exercise his option to purchase. Marion filed an action for a declaratory judgment, asking the court to determine which parcels were included in the option. Harold wanted to purchase all the farmland, but Marion argued that the option didn't include the land whose descriptions were omitted from the option. The court held a bench trial, so the judge, not a jury, issued a verdict. Harold testified the option was for all the farmland he leased, and Marion testified that when his father discussed the lease and option, Marion didn't question whether the option included all the farmland. The legal secretary who drafted the option testified that she accidentally failed to include all the property descriptions when she drafted the option. After the trial, Harold wanted to amend his pleadings so he could ask the court to reform the option to include the omitted land. The court found for Marion. Though Harold and his father wanted to contract for the sale of all the leased farmland, the option didn't include all the property descriptions, so their contract was for the sale of only some farmland, creating a mutual mistake. The court reasoned that Harold waited too long to correct this mistake, so Marion won. Harold appealed, and Marion cross-appealed, arguing parole evidence about the mistake shouldn't have been admitted. The Georgia Court of Appeals heard the appeal.